Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff and Chief of Naval Staff officially assumed duties, promised to sustain ongoing operations across the country to keep the nation secure. Bandits continue their rampage in Kaduna, killing at least 3 people and kidnapping several others after attacking Sabonlai community in Benue local government area of Kaduna State. And presidential election petition court admits academic and work records of President Bola Tinubu tendered by the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar.
On business news tonight, half of Nigeria's oil supply cargoes due to be loaded in July remain unsold following requests for back taxes from shipping companies by the country's tax agency.
On sports news tonight, FIFA confirms the United States as the host of the first edition of the expanded 32-team Club World Cup in 2025.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, the FCT Emergency Management Agency moves to pull down houses blocking flood parks in the Trademore Estate following the latest flash flood in the residential area.
And in international news from London, tributes are being paid to the 5 men killed on board the Titan submarine in what US officials say was a catastrophic implosion.
It appears the fight against insurgency and other security challenges in the country may take a new dimension in the coming days as the newly appointed military chiefs have vowed to upscale that fight. Well, coming on the heels of a similar promise by the Chief of Air Staff yesterday, the Chief of Defense Staff and the Chief of Army Staff and the Chief of Naval Staff declared that they will not only sustain all ongoing operations across the country, but inject new ideas that will enable men and officers of the armed forces to give their all. They gave this assurance as they officially assumed duty at their various official handing over ceremonies.
Thank you for your attention, and please.
The conference room of the Nigeria Defense Headquarters is filled with senior military officers here to witness the official handing over from Lieutenant General Lucky Irabo to the new Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Christopher Musa.
Thank you for the solidarity.
The outgoing Chief of Defense Staff sets the tone with his farewell speech, commending the troops and soliciting support for Major General Musa.
I'd like to enjoin you not only to remain loyal and committed to the Commander-in-Chief and the Constitution of the Federal Republic, but to also ask and counsel that you redouble your efforts so that the cherished values and the professional standing of the armed forces will be maintained.
Done with his speech, he proceeds to the handing over proper, a simple yet symbolic ceremony. The new Chief of Defense Staff promises a regime of professionalism and a renewed approach to resolving threats.
We need to synergize our activities together. We need to work as a team. Together, I'm sure we'll achieve the mandate that we're being given as members of the armed forces of Nigeria. I assure you, I will give you the right leadership. I will be there 24/7. I will be there everywhere to ensure that we move and we achieve our mandate.
That was the arrowhead. Now to the components of Nigeria's defense. The new Chief of Army Staff and that of Naval Staff officially assumed duties as well.
Okay.
The simple ceremonies signify the transfer of leadership from the old to the new.
I promise that I shall discharge my responsibilities as the Chief of Army Staff with fairness, merit, and hard work shall be duly rewarded while appropriate measures taken to bring back in line anyone that errs.
I am also aware of the immense responsibility that comes with this position, and I am committed to serve our nation with utmost dedication and integrity.
Done with all the ceremonies, the Chief of Defense Staff speaks on how the team intends to tackle the threats to Nigeria's sovereignty.
My promise to Nigeria is that we'll continue to improve on our mandate of sustaining peace and tranquility in the country. Anybody, especially the criminals, insurgents, terrorists, anyone who thinks otherwise, should be ready to face the music.
Before this day, the Chief of Air Staff, the Inspector General of Police, and other heads of security formations, as well as the paramilitary, assumed their duties. And now that all that has been taken care of, Nigerians will be looking forward to seeing improvement in the country's security.
Meanwhile, the Acting Inspector General of Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, says he plans to tackle crimes with the establishment of quick intervention squads in the country. Mr. Egbetokun was speaking at his maiden meeting with senior police officers and commissioners of police in Abuja, where he also promised to leverage data analytics and intelligence gathering to tackle insecurity across the country. He warned his officers that the days of complacency and indifference are over.
Our nation faces an array of complex security challenges that demand our unwavering commitment and resolve. We stand at a critical junction where the trust of the people in our institution hangs in the balance. It's our duty to reignite that trust, to be the beacon of hope in times of despair, and to foster an environment where safety and justice are not mere illusions, but the foundations upon which our nation thrives. One of the foremost thrusts of my administration will be to upholding the sanctity of our legal framework with a view to standardizing the policing profession vis-a-vis driving a transformative agenda, embracing the principles of transparency, accountability, and professionalism, while upholding the rights and welfare of both our officers and communities we serve. The Nigerian police force under my command, in its quest to stamp out violent crimes and their detrimental and debilitating effects on the security and safety of our society, will forge ahead to tackle the menace of crimes and criminality head-on with the establishment of a specialized quick intervention squad, which will comprise combat-ready mobile police officers with effective and enhanced training in crisis de-escalation.
Indeed, the security chiefs have their jobs cut out as bandits continue to terrorize many communities. The latest is Sabonlaye community in Benue local government area of Kaduna State, where at least 3 people have been reportedly killed and several others kidnapped by the rampaging bandits. The police and Benue local government authorities are yet to comment on the incident, but the community leader, Anas Musa, told Channels Television that the bandits stormed Sabonlaye village at about 12 noon on Thursday, shooting sporadically and in the process killing 3 farmers. Meanwhile, the chairman of Benue Emirate Progressive Union, Usman Kasai, who confirmed the attack, says they are trying to ascertain the exact number of those that were kidnapped. Away from security to the judiciary, the Presidential Election Petition Court has admitted certified copies of academic and work records of the President, Bola Tinubu, tendered by the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar. Meanwhile, the PDP and the Labour Party have closed their case at the Presidential Election Petition Court, where they are challenging the victory of President Bola Tinubu at the February 25th presidential election. This comes after the PDP presented 27 witnesses and the Labour Party fielded 13 witnesses to establish their allegations of election malpractice and irregularities. Our correspondent, Manuela Akele, reports.
Last year, the king killed somebody died.
It's the last day of sitting for the week at the presidential election petition court in Abuja, and lawyers from the People's Democratic Party, All Progressive Congress, INEC, and President Tinubu are here for the day's proceedings. The atmosphere is calm as they wait for the commencement of the sitting. First case to be called is the People's Democratic Party. The party tenders through its 27th witness certified copies of academic qualifications, work records, as well as the Ghanaian passport of President Tinubu. Led in evidence by the lead counsel to SAHCO, Chris Uche, Mr. Inahoro Eba tells the court that he applied and obtained the Form EC9, which contained the affidavit of personal particulars, which Tinubu submitted to INEC. The witness further tells the court that among the documents he obtained from the USA are Tinubu's purported certificate from Chicago State University, which he said belonged to a female. The witness told the court that documents he obtained from INEC show that the NYC certificate that Tinubu submitted in aid of his qualifications bore the name Adekunle. Despite objections from the respondents, the court admitted all the documents in evidence. Under cross-examination led by counsel to Tinubu, Wole Olanikpekun, the witness says he is not the official custodian of the certificate from Chicago State University. He states that it was issued to him. He further adds that he did not find out if Tinubu renounced his Guinean citizenship. Wole Olanikpekun goes further to tender a document to the court, a letter from the school stating that Tinubu graduated from the school with honors. Counsel to PDP, Chris Uche, objects to the admissibility of the letter, but the court admits it as evidence.
We fielded our last witness today, who, as you can see, tendered very, very critical documents pertaining to the qualifications of the second respondent, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the academic qualifications, including the NYSC certificate, and then the conviction, the criminal forfeiture judgment from the US, as well as the Guinean passport. So all these documents were admitted by the court, and we were able to round off our case on that note, having called 27 witnesses.
Back in the courtroom, the Labour Party's case is next. The spokesperson for the presidential campaign of the Labour Party takes to the witness stand. Under cross-examination, Mr. Tanko, who believes that votes were allocated to the different candidates, asks the court to void any of the results based on allocated votes of the election in the FCT, including that of the Labour Party. He confirmed that the party had 133,000 polling unit agents for the 176,974 polling units in the country. He prayed the court to declare Peter Obi the winner, but failed to depose to what he wants the court to do with the votes cast in favor of PDP, as they were not made a party to the suit. Mr. Tanko told the court that he relied on Form EC8As from various states to prepare his witness deposition. The court has adjourned till July 3rd for the defense to open their case. Immanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
Staying with legal matters, the Calabar Division of the Court of Appeal today upheld the conviction of Senator Bassi Akpan on money laundering charges by a federal high court, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, and ordered his arrest. Justice Agatha Okeke had on December 1st, 2022, found Senator Akpan, then governorship candidate of the Young Progressive Party, guilty of 7 counts of money laundering preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and sentenced him to 42 years in prison without an option of fine. Mr. Akpan was prosecuted on allegations of receiving vehicles valued at 240 million naira as bribe from companies linked to one Olajide Omokore, a contractor, who executed a 3 billion naira contract for the government of Akwa Ibom State, while Senator Bassi Akpan was Commissioner for Finance. Dissatisfied with the judgment, Senator Akpan, on December 29, 2022, approached a vacation court in Port Harcourt, River State, secured a post-conviction bail on health grounds. But then upon release from prison, Senator Akpan continued with his campaign to be governor of Akwa Ibom State and subsequently approached the appellate court in Calabar to set aside the judgment of Justice Okeke. Delivering judgment today, the 3-man panel of the appellate court, led by Justice Raphael Chikwe Agbo, upheld the conviction of Senator Akpan, but varied the sentence by granting the appellant an option of fine. The court also reaffirmed that the appellant should restitute the sum of 240 million naira to the federal government through the EFCC, and that the said restitution shall not be a prerequisite for his release from the correctional facility. The court thereafter revoked his bail and ordered the arrest of Senator Bassi Akpan. In part two after the break, the media entrepreneur and founding chairman of Dar Communications, Chief Raymond Dokpesi, is laid to rest at his hometown at Benue in Edo State. Do join us again.
Here's to the odd defiers, to those who break through the limits, to those who always go for it.
The Duchess International Hospital opened its doors in October 2021. The mission of the hospital is to reverse medical tourism. We take particular care here at the Duchess to bring together a combination of the brightest and the best locally, as well as Nigerians in the diaspora who are interested in returning to do very good work for the benefit of our patients here in this country.
The good thing is that we have all international expertise here, all international facilities here, international people working here. Everything is coming together in a space which was considered not great in terms of the availability of healthcare.
Access Bank, of course, has been able to provide us with a robust range of products and services that has enabled us to deliver that standard and quality of healthcare that is integral to our mission as an organization.
Recover with Astamin, a blend of amino acids and multivitamins.
Trust does not come cheap. It's a word you can bank on, the efficiency you can trade with. Trust should be what you demand and what every partner should give. Trust is the insight you base your business decision on. Trust should give your dreams wings, taking you above and beyond your borders. You have to trust your gut. And trust that your dreams are valid. In our world of corporate and investment banking, trust is a big word. A word that guides and leads our commitment to your growth and that of your business. Go for growth with your trusted partner.
Progress. It is like the tireless rise of the sun, eager for day to break, so that it can take on the world. And that is why, when we travel beyond the land of our birth, we are not afraid to start afresh in search of our glory.
This is the sound of progress. Ebubedike, nwanne bụ nwanne, nwoke na-etiti ụmụ nwoke, ịlọghachila n'ebube. Enjoy the new taste of progress.
Hello, this is Premium Pension. How can we help?
Our experts work behind the scenes, enabling our members grow wealth to secure a premium tomorrow. We see your hard work and we make your money work hard for you. We are growing with you in commitment and service. Leveraging technology to meet your demands. Secure your future and pave way for the next generation. Embracing diversity with firm roots across the 36 states of Nigeria and the FCT. Premium pension. Active today, premium tomorrow.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. The Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, and Chief of Naval Staff officially assumed duties, promised to sustain ongoing operations across the country to keep the nation secure. Bandits continue their rampage in Kaduna, kill at least 3 people and kidnap several others after attacking Sabunlai community in Benue local government area of Kaduna State. Presidential election petition court admits academic and work records of President Bola Tinubu tendered by the People's Democratic Party and its presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. And tributes pour in for the 5 men killed on board the Titan submersible in what U.S. officials say was a catastrophic implosion. To other stories now, the Benue State Governor, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, is still talking tough. And this time, he is vowing to recover all government assets allegedly removed by officials of the previous administration. To achieve this, the governor has inaugurated a 20-man committee with a warning to be fair and not victimize anyone in the process. The move, however, has drawn reaction from the opposition, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, which is alleging that the governor is desperate to wipe out the positive impact made by the PDP in the state.
This gathering is for the inauguration of a 20-man committee to recover assets allegedly removed by officials of the previous administration in Benue State. Governor Hyacinth Alia arrived at the old banquet hall for the ceremony, and he leads the committee members in a pledge.
Sincerity, carrying out this function of years. Help us, God. So help us, God.
He tasks the committee to be fair in the recovery of all the vehicles that were used by the previous administration. The committee chairman promises to take the task seriously.
We have equally received series of allegations of conversions, abuse and outright stealing of government property and assets, with these believed to be carried out towards the end of the immediate past administration in the state. We therefore find it appropriate and legitimate to set in motion the machinery to recover all that has been illegally taken away that belongs to the state.
We pledge that in carrying out this assignment, we'll be mindful of the fact that there are rules and regulations governing the procurement, allocation, distribution, use and disposal of government assets.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has taken a swipe at the actions of the governor. They accuse him of witch-hunting the previous administration.
This is the situation we have found ourselves in Benue State today under the reign of Governor Hyacinth Alia, a supposed Catholic priest, and the Benue State House of Assembly, which leadership he only recently fought tooth and nail to hijack.
Expectedly, the chief press secretary to Governor Alia denied all the allegations, including that of sacking the local government's chairman.
As of the last time I checked, there's no communication yet, formal communication yet on the table of His Excellency in respect to that. Once the communication comes, if it comes at all, Excellency will meet with his team and maybe a decision will be taken to that regard.
This may not be the last from the political impasse between the Governor Alia-led APC government and the opposition PDP. As the recovery committee begins to carry out its task, more feathers will definitely be ruffled.
Let's head to the nation's capital now, and Victor Matthias is standing by for the very latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Victor.
Hello, it's in the TGIF, and welcome to the nation's capital. Now, residents of Trademore Estate in the nation's capital may have to brace for relocation as some of the houses in the estate may be pulled down any time from now. Now, this is coming from the Director, Response and Mitigation of the Federal Capital Territory Emergency Management Agency, Mrs. Florence Wenegieme, who gave the warning in Abuja shortly after inspecting the estate following the latest flash flood that hit it. She is also asking residents of the nation's capital to resist the temptation to build houses on flood paths and waterways.
It is a case of sorrow and tears as flash floods hit some parts of Trademore Estate in Abuja for the third time in 4 years. The estate, located in Ligbe area along the airport road in the nation's capital, was flooded after a heavy downpour in the early hours of Friday, June the 23rd. Several houses were submerged. Vehicles and properties were damaged in the flood. One of the effects of this is the traffic jam. Officials of the Federal Fire Service and other responders were on ground to assist residents. The FCT Emergency Management Agency is not happy that some people had built their houses on floodplains.
So far, most of the houses that were marked for demolition last year were submerged. I've gone round and I've seen most of them that are yet to be demolished, they were submerged too. So that simply means that there are still structures that are still on the waterway. So we are going to come back here with town planners and surveyors to carry out a comprehensive survey of the whole estate.
Some residents of the estate, including an eyewitness, share their thoughts on the flood.
All of us are in our security post when we enter work, including Godwin, all of us security at this second gate, Trademore. So this rain starts small. When we are there, we are discussing, there's one man, Suleiman. He said, this rain, I've covered this security post before. Immediately, I just I packed my bag. I said, I'm going outside.
The solution to this problem, from my observation, we already told them before, the volume of water that comes from Galadimawa to Trademore is massive. There is no how it can be contained in Trademore.
By my own knowledge, we thought it's just like a rain shower. The next thing, let me say, all our people should get out with their properties and let our estate documents should be valid. My going inside, the next thing I saw that the water covers me.
With the rains yet to get to the peak, the chairman of Phase 3 of the estate calls for government intervention.
As a result of the rain that has been falling today, we've had flash flooding, which we get every year in Trademore. Thank God, our primary concern today was to rescue life as opposed to concentrating on people's properties. So as we speak, no life was lost. We give all the glory to God. But we expect that the issue of this annual catastrophe will have to be addressed in tandem with government agencies. And that's what we are looking at. We hope they will be able to come to our rescue this time.
Although no life was lost, residents remain optimistic that the government will come to their rescue.
Meanwhile, a professor of urban management and governance at the University of Lagos, Professor Taibat Lawanson, is advocating a shift in focus in the way city planners, government and the private sector consider urban growth and development. Professor Lawanson says there is something about the African culture that has helped in galvanizing growth, community development and human capital development that should be considered in planning projects and concepts for urban African cities. She shared her thoughts after presenting a paper on the subject at her inaugural lecture at the University of Lagos.
What I think is that, and that was essentially what the lecture was about, that we have to think about the large scale, but we must also, and more importantly, find a way to amplify the small scale, because there are successes. And what can we learn from how people are, the kinds of practices at this lower level, at the micro scale, that are successful, if not being scalable? What can we learn from them that can then move into the core formal city building. What I would say is that let us go back and look into the activities of the Community Development Association, the Federation of the Urban Poor, the Federation of Informal Workers, because those are the people who are doing these things. What can we learn from how they're mobilizing resources, from how they are mobilizing, sweat equity, from how they are mobilizing their little pennies and improving their communities and improving their quality of life? So that is really, that is the foundation of the African city that we want, of the sustainable African city. And that is really what we need to pay more attention to.
Who should be listening?
Everybody.
Who should be galvanizing it?
The government, the people, the private sector.
Now, still ahead on the news at 10, half of Nigeria's oil cargoes due to be loaded in July remain unsold following request for back taxes from shipping companies by the Federal Inland Revenue Service. That's on Business News. Do join us again.
In a world where everything is fast-paced, how do you remain unstoppable?
Babe, I need some money for groceries. Dad, the cable TV subscription has expired.
What if I told you the key to being unstoppable is now at your fingertips?
Uncle, wait. Uncle, have you forgotten I'm going back to school today? Thank you.
Oga, I beg no forget plumber money.
Oga, we need to buy fuel. Don't let petty transactions limit you. Download the First Money Wallet app or dial *894*1# on any mobile phone and live unstoppable.
Enjoy the unlimited life with First Money Wallet. Dial *894*1# on any mobile phone to activate now. You first. First Bank.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Who wants to tell me the answer? Good. This way.
I give my soul. You get my time and dedication.
Hey, stop that.
You know, get waiting for life. Where I know fit to. Cause all the dream where we don't dream must have come true. It must have short for you. Cause it's short for me. Together we will ride against the mountains away. So make you dare with me. Cause I dare for you. Together we will ride against the mountains away.
Teach the advanced way with Glow LTE Advanced, the power of 3 data networks in one. Get a Glow SIM or dial *301#.
That's right. You too could be one of the 20 Zenith Bank customers that will win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from June 1st, 2023 until May 31st, 2024 in the Zenith Better Life Promo 3. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Live the better life with Zenith Bank.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the federal government has reiterated its commitment to improving the transport infrastructure in the country, especially now that subsidy on petrol is gone. This was reaffirmed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, at the commissioning of 130 operational vehicles in Abuja to boost the operational capabilities of the Federal Road Safety Corps. Our correspondent, Benny Ark, tells us more. Well, we'll hopefully bring that report for you in subsequent bulletins, but that's it from the nation's capital. Ayotunde is back on from Lagos with the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Victor. The remains of media entrepreneur, the founder and chairman of Dar Communications, Chief Raymond Dokpesi, have been laid to rest at his hometown, Agenebode, in SAHCO East local government area of Edo State. Loved ones, friends and well-wishers who attended the different activities for the funeral ceremony were reminded about the importance of living positive, impactful lives.
Agenebode, SAHCO East local government area of Edo State, is the hometown of the late shipping magnate, politician, media entrepreneur and chairman of Dar Communications, Raymond Dokpesi. Although he is departed, the town and its people, with many who have traversed regions, show up in this procession in his honor as part of a week-long funeral ceremony. And then it gets solemn at a service of songs held thereafter at his former residence. The funeral mass the morning after gives well-wishers, family members and friends, including dignitaries from various fields of endeavor, another opportunity to pray for the repose of his soul, even as the officiating priest reminds all of the need to remember life after death.
We must pray for the grace of God to convince us that we must be close to God. And if we go with Jesus, whatever we do, the good we do, will be rewarded. And those who do evil will also receive their reward. No matter our rank on earth, no matter our status, no matter the intelligence and all other heavenly and earthly gifts God has given to us, without God, they will come to nothing and be forgotten forever and ever as if they never happened.
More messages and gratitude also flow following the homily.
All of us, will end up like this tomorrow. And if we do, what will you be remembered for? So a day like this is a day we should all reflect on what we are, who we are, and what we are doing for the service of humanity.
A procession and motorcade accompanied the corpse of late Raymond Dokpesi to his final resting place. Emotions cannot be reined in when the time for goodbye comes. At a reception for guests, more accolades pour in for the man whose life and times many have come here to honor.
Dokpesi's impact on humanity will be there forever. In terms of immortalization, he has already immortalized himself in the hearts and minds and souls of all whoever benefited from him. AIT is the only program, the only television station that has a space for people who are sick or who need help to tell their stories and put an account number there. Do you know how many hundreds of thousands of lives he has saved in that process?
For family, this loss weighs heavily.
To a very large extent, for us as children, for us, the nuclear family, the outpour of love, the kind of tributes and comments that have been made about High Chief, it kind of eases the pain of not having him around throughout all the periods in which he was sacrificing his family time to take care of everything else.
One prayer on the lips of loved ones and numerous beneficiaries is that their beloved patriarch and benefactor receives the rewards of his labor from the Almighty. Jessica Olubuser, Channels Television News.
The MTN Foundation, in collaboration with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, have vowed to sustain the war against substance abuse. Speaking at a national quiz competition in Abuja to mark the Anti-Substance Abuse Project, The executive secretary of the MTN Foundation, Oduayo Soya, says the initiative, which started in 2019, will continue until the scourge is eliminated from the country.
An NDLEA report for 2018 says at least 29.4 million Nigerians abuse drugs. And MTN Foundation has joined forces with the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime to curb and eventually end this. Today, officials of the MTN Foundation, NDLEA and UNODC, as well as secondary school students across Nigeria, have come together in the nation's capital to sustain the fight against substance abuse. A quiz competition among secondary school students is designed to help build awareness about substance abuse.
False, because drug prevention goes beyond the provision of information.
After 2 rounds of the competition, PTNMDP International College, Nasarawa State, emerges overall winner of the competition. The elected representatives of the school have a word of advice for their peers.
My message to the people out there is that drug abuse is a one-chance boss, that if you get into it, it is difficult to get out of it.
The MTN Foundation and their partners speak about the motivation behind the Anti-Substance Abuse Project, ASAP.
Nigeria is a young continent, Africa is a young continent, and statistics tell us that, there's a scourge of drug abuse going on. And so we thought it was important to intervene through the ASAP program. We started in 2019, and in 2020 we did all of this virtual. But the good thing about this year is that we're fully back physically.
Drug is not for NDLA alone. We need to partner with those who have the same zeal to fight drugs with us. Because drug issues or drug problem is a common and shared responsibility. So we need to have partners like MTN. We need to have partners like you, the press.
We realize that Nigeria has a serious drug problem, and we want to make an intervention. So they came up with the ASAP program in 2019, I believe. And since then, we thought, it's important that everyone gets on board. NDLA, the government cannot do it on its own. The problem is so multifaceted that it needs the involvement of so many different actors.
The MTN Foundation will embark on a roadshow on Saturday, the 24th of June 2023, in continuation of its campaign to raise awareness on the dangers of substance abuse.
Leading provider of passenger ramp and cargo services, Skyway Aviation Handling Company PLC, has declared a dividend of 16 naira 5 kobo for the year 2022 ended. This is according to the chairman of the board of directors of SAHCO, Dr. Taiwo Afolabi, during the company's 13th annual general meeting held in Lagos. The company also recorded a growth in revenue as well as a growth in gross profit for the financial year 2022.
It's the 13th AGM of SAHCO, bringing together shareholders online and board of directors on site to do an appraisal of the performance for the year ended 2022. And despite the global economic headwinds, the company declares a final dividend of 16 naira 5 kobo.
The board is recommending for your approval the sum of 223,340,700 naira as dividend. This works out at the rate of 16.5 kobo per share.
The lineup also captures resolutions as well as election and re-election of directors. Meanwhile, MD and CEO of SAHCO PLC, Mr. Basil Agwarumi, sends a message of assurance to investors, while Chairman of the Board of Directors, Dr. Taiwo Afolabi, reflects on the year ended.
So many things were put in place now in terms of increase in revenue towards next year. If you look at it, we've we've invested heavily in state-of-art equipments, infrastructures are being put in place, and we actually try to make sure that our staff, we have done well. They've gone for training, And I believe that will add value to what we are doing.
I can assure you we put a lot of structures on ground that will ensure that we are able to present better results to our shareholders this year. If you have gone through our results, you will look at our performance already for the first quarter, and you will understand that we are already on the way up. There are so many other things that are happening in terms of the investments that we had made earlier on equipment, and the clients that are also coming in shows that yes, we are going to end the year by the grace of God with a more better results that we have had.
The company says it remains committed to taking SAHCO PLC through a path of improved revenue and profitability, as well as satisfied client base and better remuneration for shareholders.
It's now time for business news with Joka Rogers.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you so much, Aya. Today we're starting off with the crude oil market. Nigeria's crude oil sale may face a glut as oil barrels due to be loaded in July. That's by the end of next week are still waiting for buyers at the international market, with between 20 and 22 cargoes unsold for July, which traders say may be about 1 million barrels. The surplus, according to traders, follows a request by the country's tax agency, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, for 10 years in back taxes from shipping companies, which has made some of them wary of sending vessels to collect crude cargoes. Earlier this month, some ship owners were reported to be avoiding the country after a series of multi-million-dollar tax bills were sent out, seeking to claw back unpaid duties from 2010 to 2019. The tax agency says there will be a 6-month grace period, though, for the shipping companies to comply with the tax request. The Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria and NGX Regulation Limited are set to launch the first 2 IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards, IFRS S1 and IFRS S2, by the International Sustainability Standards Board. The launch of the disclosure standards, which will also be carried out on the same day in other cities around the world, including New York, London and Frankfurt, is expected to hold at the Nigerian Exchange Group premises on Monday next week. It's expected to provide a global baseline of sustainability disclosures that meets the information needs of investors to enable companies provide comprehensive sustainability information to global capital markets. For now, Nigeria is the only African country that has been selected to launch the IFRS S1 and IFRS S2. Well, the price of Bitcoin climbed to its highest level in more than a year today after surging above $31,000. The spike on the world's biggest cryptocurrency was propelled by a growing wave of enthusiasm surrounded by a flurry of exchange-traded fund filings. The outperformance of Bitcoin recently has been tied in part to a filing last week from the world's largest asset manager, BlackRock, which is seeking approval for a spot Bitcoin ETF. If approved, it will be the first of its kind and would increase accessibility and create demand for the digital asset. Let's get more figures for you. Trading activities ended Friday's session at the local stock market in the red as another day of profit taking knocked off about 4 billion naira from the market's overall value. Ini John Mekwa has more. Thank you so much, Joke. Welcome to the final stock market report for the week. And guess what? The bear is still in charge. It's the second drop in the all-share index this week. But today's is forgivable. It's very marginal, 0.01%. much less than what we had yesterday, and we're still at 59,206.63. Market cap pleasantly still at 32 trillion naira. And now let's look at the activities. Volume is up today, 12% more than it was yesterday, Thursday, at 627. We see value too is still in the green. The only one that has not recovered is the deals, but I guess it's just, the number of deals. But the value and the volume are looking good. And the people or the counters that were most digested or embraced by the investors today, oil and gas. But oil and gas loss, profit taking coming back there, almost 1%. Corn oil lost some money, as well as Total, it also lost, and they pulled down that counter by 0.73%. Our lovely banking is also still down. GTCO, Mansard, NEM Insurance, they did that too. That Consumer Goods is the only one marginally up, and that's because of Honeywell Flour and Unilever. They pull that out of that. Well, what a week it's been. 2 negative, 3 positive. So the positive still wins, and we hope it to win again next week. That's a stock market report. Back to you, Joke. Thank you, Inin. Let's now take a look at the closing performance of major world stock markets for Friday. That's business news on the news at 10. Back to you, Ayatunde.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Many thanks, Joker. President Bola Tinubu has assured Nigerians in Paris, France, of repositioning the education and health sectors, while the ongoing reforms on the economy will be sustained and expanded with a view to relieving families struggling with the burden of poverty and insecurity. Now, speaking at an interactive session with members of the Nigerian community living in France, the president said more creative and innovative policies will be explored and implemented in areas that directly impact livelihood of Nigerians, like electricity, sports, and energy. Relatives of passengers of the ill-fated Titan submersible have called for a detailed investigation into the unfortunate incident. Email exchanges with a leading deep-sea exploration specialist showed previous warnings over the safety of the Ocean Gate submersible were repeatedly dismissed by the CEO of the company, Stockton Rush, as baseless cries. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Tributes are being paid to the 5 men killed on board the Titan submarine in what US officials say was a catastrophic implosion. The victims were Hamish Harding Shahzada Darwood and his son Suleiman Darwood, Paul Henry Nargoleh and Stockton Rush. It's emerged that the US Navy originally detected an acoustic anomaly consistent with an implosion shortly after the Titan lost contact on Sunday. A robotic diving vehicle found major fragments of the submarine on the sea floor about 1,600 feet from the Titanic shipwreck on Thursday. James Cameron, director of the 1997 Titanic film, who has completed 33 dives to the wreck, said he suspected a disaster after the sub went missing.
Look, Monday morning when I first found out about the incident, got on a whole bunch of calls and emails. It's a small community. Within an hour and a half, I had the following information. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 feet. They lost comms and tracking. The last one being the critical one, because the transponder that's used to track a sub during descent and on the bottom is a fully autonomous system. It's in its own pressure housing, and it has its own battery power. So for them to lose comms and tracking at the same time, sub was gone. There was no question in my mind. For days, I tried to run other scenarios that could account for it. I could come up with nothing.
The French president says wealthy nations have finalized an overdue $100 billion climate finance pledge to developing countries.
D'abord, il y a eu durant ce sommet des choses très concrètes qui ont été obtenues.
President Emmanuel Macron was speaking at a final panel of a summit in Paris where some 40 leaders, including 24 from Africa, China's prime minister and Brazil's president. The summit's objective is to boost crisis financing for low-income states and ease their debt burden. The $100 billion pledge falls far short of poor nations' actual needs, but has become symbolic of wealthy countries' failure to deliver promised climate funding. At least 227 migrants have been rescued off Spain's Canary Islands, a day after reported deaths of more than 30 migrants there. Emergency services and the Coast Guard say the migrants were travelling on inflatable boats near the Lanzarote and Gran Canaria Islands. A number of them were taken to hospital to be treated for mild conditions. Spanish authorities said rescue workers found the bodies of a minor and a man and rescued 24 other people. US President Joe Biden and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi have hailed a new era in their country's relationship after the White House rolled out the red carpet for the Indian Prime Minister.
Toast to our partnership, to our people, to the possibilities that lie ahead, to two great friends, two great nations, and two great powers. Cheers.
Though the countries are not formal treaty-bound allies and India has long relished its independence, Washington wants Delhi to be a strategic counterweight to China. During Modi's visit, the two countries announced agreements on semiconductors, critical minerals, technology, space cooperation, defense cooperation and sales. There are calls for calm in Sierra Leone a day before the fifth presidential election since the end of a 1991-2002 civil war in which more than 50,000 people were killed. Voting will take place on Saturday with incumbent President Julius Maada Bio seen as the front-runner, despite a tough challenge from Samura Kamara of the opposition All People's Congress. Violence broke out around Sierra Leone's main opposition party headquarters on Wednesday, killing at least one person. Around 3.4 million Sierra Leoneans are expected to vote. And Brazilian officials say construction on a mansion belonging to Brazilian soccer star Neymar has been halted due to environmental violations. An argument between the soccer player's father and environmental officials was caught on camera at the gates of the residence. The local government's Environment Secretariat said the luxury project violated rules regarding land use and movement of freshwater sources. If the violations are proven, Neymar could be forced to pay at least 5 million reais or $1 million in fines. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Let's talk sports. The preparation to make the most of the CAF Confederation Cup next season is in top gear for Bendel Insurance, who are the reigning champions of the Federation Cup. And that's coming from the Edo State Deputy Governor and Chairman of the club, Mr. Philip Shaibu, who maintains that all hands are on deck to ensure a return to the continent after 28 years will be quite memorable. Remo Stars and Lobby Stars have advanced to the Niger Super 8 finals that will hold in Lagos from July the 7th to the 16th. At the zonal playoff, Remo Stars picked the Southwest ticket, beating Shooting Stars of Ibadan 3-0 at the Eket Stadium, while Lobby Stars eliminated City FC of Abuja 4-3 on penalties after a 2-2 draw in the North Central tie. Now, the first edition of FIFA's new 32-team Club World Cup will be held in the United States in 2025. FIFA had confirmed in the match a match that the revamped Club World Cup will be played every 4 years from June 2025, and the FIFA unanimously appointed the U.S. as the tournament's host for the first edition of the expanded format. And that's it on sports. Ayotunde, it's back to you.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The newly appointed military chiefs officially assumed duties today with a promise to sustain the ongoing operations across the country to keep the nation secure. That's the news at 10 tonight. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayo Tunde Balogun. Do have a good night.